Hello, I'm Shaky. Today I'm gonna start a new playthrough of Grim Dawn, the little RPG that could. This game has stood the test of time and continues to be my favorite in its genre. Yes, I will even be a heretic and say that I like this more than Diablo 2. For shame. But this game has it all. A dark, gritty atmosphere with a dash of Lovecraftian horror, class combinations, a deep progression system, and much more. I mean, the dual class system alone means that there are over 30 different possible combinations. There is the devotion system, which is this whole separate skill tree that further augments your character, and of course the crafting system, which can completely change your build and your options. What's not to love? Of course, having this many different and deep systems comes with a price, as the game can be a little bit complicated when trying to get into it. Fortunately, there are plenty of builds and guides to be found online, and I usually follow one of these when I play through the game. But for this playthrough I'm gonna do things a little bit differently. Instead of relying on what someone else has made, I have thought out my own leveling build and have quite a clear plan for how I want to progress my character. If this plan is good, efficient, or even viable, I have no idea. But that's what I'm gonna find out. The idea is to get to the end game and farm the entire Death Guard set. And my reason for this is quite simply that I think it looks cool. And also the class fantasy of being an acid-focused killing machine that jumps into combat with shadow strikes and melts everything with bone harvests really speaks to my inner teenager. Now, getting the full set will require some grinding in the end. But with dedication and elbow grease, nothing is impossible. The only thing standing in my way is my general lack of dedication and elbow grease. But apart from that, nothing can go wrong. But before all of that, I need to get to the end game. And how do I plan to do that? Well, basically I want to have the same playstyle all throughout the game. And what this means is that I want to focus on shadow striking into mobs and killing them with bone harvest. The class combo that works best for this is Nightblade and Necromancer, which turns into a Reaper. There is a slight problem with this though, since I want a specific hood that gives bonuses to bone harvest. And this hood drops only from an NPC called Master Ravok. Ravok can only be killed if you side with Kaima's Chosen in Homestead. And here's the issue. They will not let you join if you are a Necromancer. So up until Homestead I can only level Nightblade. This is not a big problem, but something that I need to have in mind while leveling. To start out though, I need to actually get to Homestead, which means progressing the main quest line, which for now means finding and killing Warden Krieg in Burwich. On my way there I do some quests by saving different NPCs and killing some bosses. Quests can be progressed without actually picking them up, which is nice when playing through the game again since it saves quite a lot of time. So instead of Bone Harvest I decide to run with Amarasta's Blade Burst, which is a melee AoE smack that is almost kind of similar to Bone Harvest. The big difference being that it actually needs to hit a target to go off, which can be annoying since the cooldown starts even if you don't hit the target. This makes the ability a little bit janky to use, especially early on when actually hitting is far from guaranteed. What I do notice while killing bosses, or mini-bosses might be a better description, is that Blade Burst does okay against multiple normal mobs, but it struggles against bosses. This combined with me playing on veteran mode makes my time killing bosses taking a lot longer than usual. This is not any more challenging than before, but it just takes longer. Dodging and attacking weave together with even more dodging, followed by more attacking. I even pick a fight with a monster totem, hoping that the loot and experience might help me going forward. But after further consideration I decide that it's better to continue the main quest. I desperately need some upgrades, and I know just where to get it. From my extensive research prior to starting this playthrough, I know that Veloth underneath the prison drops a ring that gives +3 to Blade Burst. So after struggling my way to Burwich outskirts, I head back to the prison to hand in some quests as well as getting the ring. After some more dodging and attacking, Veloth dies, and he actually had a little surprise for me. Turns out he dropped Veloth's Ring of Shadows that just so happens to give me plus in Shadow Strike. So I get plus in both Blade Burst and Shadow Strike. Lucky! This does make a difference in the overall strength of my character, but Blade Burst still struggles against tougher enemies. Oh well, I continue in the hope that more levels and maybe other gear can help me until I get to the next target farmable piece of gear I have on my list. Eventually I make it to Warden Krieg, and this is the moment I was training for all yesterday afternoon. Krieg isn't really that difficult, but can dish out a lot of damage in a short amount of time if you're not careful. He also has this terrible habit of resurrecting after you kill him for the first time, which is just unfair. I mean, I come in here, and apart from Vilat's ring, I have no gear that is worth talking about. No good boss killing skills, and in general my character is kind of weak and worthless, and he pulls crap like that? But I have a secret weapon, something that he never sees coming. Dodging and attacking. This, coupled with a smile and a positive attitude, melts the bastard in just quite a few minutes. And with that, Act 1 is completed, and I can continue onwards to Act 2 and what will prove to be a goldmine when it comes to gear specifically for my character and build. First though, I make a short stop in the Forgotten Gods DLC to pick up a movement skill. Now I know that there are multiple different ones and some are better with some builds, yada yada yada. But once I tried the jumping skill I was hooked. I just love taking shortcuts over obstacles or down cliffs to save even the smallest amount of time. Next on my bucket list is rushing to the first place that has ghosts in it, to farm them for the Spectral Longsword, which gives even more bonuses to Shadow Strike. This little cave is great for that, and it even has a devotion shrine. But what I didn't know was what else was in here. As it turns out, the big boss in here has a specific shield that he can drop, which gives me a flat damage bonus to Veil of Shadow. So far I have only used Veil of Shadow to debuff enemies' attack speed and damage resistances. But with this bad boy, the pitiful damage that Veil does goes from barely there to much more than barely there. Now all of a sudden my damage has skyrocketed, at least compared to what it was, and I barely need to touch low health mobs, they just die anyway. As I make my way through the bandit camp, none can stand in my way. Apart from these two. I still snuck past them. But all others simply crumble when faced with the combined might of Blade Burst and a jacked up Veil of Shadow. Even Cronley, the main boss of the area, dies pretty fast. Even though there is a lot of running around waiting for his stupid energy shield to go down. Cronley's hideout went so well in fact that I even thought that it would be no problem to go into the Steps of Torment and fight Sarthusaland, which even on normal difficulty can be dangerous. Needless to say, this went very well, and after only a couple of totally unavoidable deaths on my end, Sarthusaland lies dead at my feet. And I continue on my journey. Lucky for me I'm not playing on hardcore, because if I was, then I would need to trudge through the tedium that was Act 1 all over again. Instead, I can continue on in shame and maybe perhaps even possibly learn from my mistake. Apart from this little mishap, my travel to Homestead is smooth as butter. My new shield together with some more gear that increases Shadow Strike helps me cut straight through my opponents, and after a small detour to Tyrant's Hold, I finally arrive at Homestead. I have even managed to level so far that I've picked up the Blade Spirit skill. That's those two swirly things that follow me. They are great, and together with Veil, I have quite the amount of passive damage. At Homestead, I make the big brain decision to not go into the ether-filled hellhole that is the conflagration. Instead saving that for the future when maybe my survivability is a little bit better. Unfortunately, it turns out though that I can't join Kaiman's Chosen just yet, as it seems that the local peasantry is on a strike and flat out refuses to get back to work. Now understandably this tests my patience, as lazy farmers standing in the way of progress makes my skin crawl. I have a world to save, damn it, and this lowly rabble will not stop me in my tracks. This leads me to take it upon myself to settle the dispute in a fast and resolute manner. My job is to find the strike leader and show her what's what, as well as destroying any and all striker egg clusters that the workers have placed in the field as a show of dominance or something, I don't know. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know anything about the lore in this game. This is just my own conclusions based on what I'm seeing here. As it turns out, the leader of the unionized workforce has taken residence in this hole, where she orders the common folk to do just about anything but work. I quickly negotiate with her co-conspirators before I venture deeper into her hideout. Turns out they were holding the keys to her office and needed some persuasion before they agreed that letting me in was the most sensible thing to do. Here I find the ringleader just sitting there, waiting for her demands to be met. Well, I'm here to put an end to the strike and get the people back to work. And to no one's surprise, with my recently gained extra power, I do. After very little problem, the strike leader dies. I mean, gives in to my superior negotiating skills. And hopefully, when I return to Homestead, the aura of laziness has dissipated and the people have returned to the fields. Before I can return though, there is another matter that needs my utmost attention. Apparently some Aether fiends have taken hold of a barn that is of paramount importance to the people. Apparently. For strategic wheat purposes or something, I don't know. Anyway, I head over there, and if you're wondering why I didn't want to go to the conflagration earlier, this might be an indication of why. Let's just say that the Aether forces that you see here are just a fraction of what is over there. If your resistances aren't up to snuff, this will be a Steps of Torment all over again. With the amalgamation in the barn dead, I return to Homestead with another quest successfully completed. And what do I see when getting back? Happy farmers doing what they were meant to do: work. With all of this completed, I can finally join Kaiman's Chosen. Respec into Necromancer and Bone Harvest, get that hood that I've been after all this time. Let's just hope that it turns out well when I actually start playing what I wanted to from the beginning. So after a somewhat shaky beginning, things are starting to look up for me. And there will be nothing but smooth sailing from here on out. Right?